Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Gyle here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. I've got a 1v1 for you guys today, taking place on Lost Paradise 3. Before we head on over there, quick message, a little bit of good news from a personal perspective. I've just been signed as a partner with Machinima. What does that mean? Well, basically, as far as you guys are concerned, what it does mean is, unfortunately, you will be seeing some ads incorporated into my videos. I truly hope that this doesn't aggravate anyone. I apologize if it does. Just think of it as it helps to support me, what revenue I get, and in turn that'll help me produce more content for you guys. It's also really good for the community, because when you get signed with such a network, they help you promote your channel, which in turn helps promote FAF, gets more people in, bloody blah, and that's essentially what this is all about at the end of the day. So anyway, on to today's game. Like I say, it's going to take place on Lost Paradise. Let's head on over there and see how these guys are going to get on. Now, I'm not exactly certain if I've casted any on this map before. This is the 61st cast in the FAF awareness series, so it's getting kind of tricky to remember, but I actually don't think I have. I've had a few replays sent to me, but it is a 20 by 20 map, and so sometimes it can be a little slow to build up. Let's take a look at the players and locations. Down here at the bottom left, we have Tags Silver Eye, and he's going Aeon in the kind of, or it is orange, isn't it? Orange corner. It almost looks yellow on my screen. I don't know about you guys, but he's opening first land, so no super early harassment with the air. He is going second air, but he's not going to go right off the bat with bomber first or anything crazy like that. It's quite a long trip to get up there. You have to be Luzon or something to be trying something like that, I reckon. Or no, you could just be Dilly, as we see up here, Fim going first air. Curse of the commentator, man, I swear. He's up here in the yellow corner, going Fim, and he's opening air first. But of course, yeah, not going for the bomber opening. He's still just utilizing the expansive nature of that air factory, as we recently found out. Of course, currently the Seraphim Air Factory is the fastest expanding in terms of producing engineers one after another, so it makes perfect sense if you're going Fim to open with Air Factory, especially on a map this side where you're not going to be funneling initial spam out of those early factories straight to your opponent. So that kind of does make sense. There is one hydrocarbon at each of the starting locations, and there's a ton of mass as well. Look at the size of some of these rocks, loads of trees, and some pretty big rocks down here by the beach as well. So not starved for mass in the slightest. It is going to be quite a ruckus, you'd imagine. Of course, both these guys, you can see up here at the top right, over 2,000. Dilly, his name is Vatueil. He changed it recently, if you're wondering why I'm calling him Dilly. Of course, we did see him just 2 casts ago, so I didn't feel like it desperately needed reiterating. But it is Dilly Dally, formerly of. He changed his name just to be difficult, but we still love him. Can't be helped. And he's going second air as well, getting straight on that bomber, already 20% done. Third air as well, so just not bothering with any of the land use. It kind of makes sense. And we're already getting some scout planes coming out of the second factory that went up for Silver Eye. That was an air factory. Taking a look at the main landmass, look at how many mass points are it's insane. You've got these kind of 2 other starting locations if it was a 2v2 in here, in the kind of nooks in these mountainous areas. And then just, it's like someone has just filled their palm with salt, each grain being a mass extractor, and then just sneezed it out over the map. They're everywhere. It's insane. I mean, you think that Navy would be a big deal on this map, but actually taking a look at it, the cliffs are pretty high, and it's quite hard to get kind of into, if there are bases being built in here. It's got a lot of protection around here, so if you have, say, Seraphim Tech, you've got the Seraphim cruisers, that's going to interfere with your long-range missile bombardments and all that kind of thing. And of course, block the regular direct fire units as well. So kind of tricky from a naval perspective, but it's all going to be about getting in onto this island as quickly as possible and building up. You can already see a transport coming out from Silver Eye. Looks fully loaded, 6 engineers on that sucker coming in, and he's going to get building ASAP. Let's see how far behind Dilly is. He's already got an engineer over here. He's going to start working on mass extractors to begin with. You'd expect he'd be getting a transport together. Indeed he is. Goes down there and he's just going to load those up. 4 air factories online. Finally going to start producing No, more air factories, sorry, beg your pardon. That looked like land factories for a moment there, but he's going all air at the back, which makes sense. Imagine the land is just going to come into play on this central island. And the transport drops off those engineers, does get shot down shortly after. But Dilly needs to get a wriggle on here. He's a little bit behind the times. He's got a couple of engineers, as I say, just building those mass points, those mexes. But he's a little bit behind with the main drop that's coming in now over at the top left, just making landfall. Needs to start spamming factories, and there they go. And he's actually going to utilize what mass... Well, one of them is going to get utilized on that mass extractor. Get that all-important bonus, but he's not going to use all of them. I guess he's well aware that he's slightly behind the curve. Got Silver Eye down here now already with 3 factories in place. And static anti-air as well, protecting himself against any potential static and mobile anti-air. In fact, you've got a couple of thistles there in the mix, protecting himself against any kind of bomb attack, which he's got to be expecting is coming his way, but judging by the amount of air that's on the map. But the spam already starting, coming out of Silver Eye's factory in the form of flares. So he's going assault bot crazy. It's a bit like batshit crazy, but with assault bots. I'm tired, leave me alone. So continuing on with the factory spam, is just moving on now. He's got 4 factories online. It's a beautiful little base in place. He's got his radar full coverage. Diddy is trying to catch up, but just working on his 4th now. He's actually done pretty well with all of that. But look at the amount of interceptors in play for Dilly already. So air control, a pretty big feature on this map so far for the yellow team. Be interesting to see how these labs interact as they come in. They will certainly have been spotted by that huge wave of inties flying overhead. They're going to pick up maybe this engineer, but at least this mass extractor, you would imagine. You can see those factories in the background, but in come some THAMs, and had they been moved forward a little bit earlier, they could have potentially picked up that mech, but they're just going to die instead. Total fail on behalf of that squad leader. Decide to have a picnic instead of going to attack. But over here on the right hand side, some flares are going to have some more success for Silver Eye, taking down the mechs and then moving on further up. Quite a stream though down here for Silver Eye, mixing up groups of Auroras and the occasional Spirit in there for some intel coverage. It's very nice to see indeed. Expect to see a few bombers or gunships on the way soon. Not yet up to T2 Dilly, but he's certainly got bombers to play with. He's going to bring those in and take down these annoying labs that have crawled up the right hand side, taken out 3 mass points already. Irritating little things. Dilly just flying over the top, getting a bead on them. He needs to move fast if he's going to save this mechs as well. Bombs away, but of course it's quite difficult to hit the main group, especially when they're being microed. He's not going to be able to save that mechs either. And on they move, potentially to take out another one, but we're finally seeing some action over on the left-hand side. A few THAMs just chilling over on the left-hand side of the map, taking out Auroras and Fervors all over the shop. Aurora's just straying a little bit too close for Silver Eye, and Silver Eye has actually gone a modest attempt at Navy. He's just going to make sure he has naval control, but I don't know how much that's going to help him. Dilly has completely ignored it. He's not going anywhere near Navy. He's not touching it on this map. Those Sylphs are just going to sit there in the bay, make sure no naval factories come online or start to get produced. Something else that Silver Eye just won't have to worry about, but starting to see some aggression now over at the top. It's nice that he's mixed in some thistles, Silver Eye, helping him out against this bomber spam. Dilly investing quite hard in the air, but at the same time, he's not looking thin on the ground either. You look at the amount of stuff, look at this production facility that's gone up in the nook up here in the middle. Absolutely crazy. It's like 10 odd land factories over there. It's like another 9 or so there, 8 or 9 there. Of course, the THAMs being just that little bit more tanky can just afford to plant themselves here at the choke point. Don't need to be doing any kind of fancy micro. especially with Silver Eye not concentrating and just moving his Auroras or his groups of troops, forces on a move through the area. But this little group is a really far forward little outpost that Dilly has put down. He's got a couple of point defenses in there. And finally a decent sized air wing out from Silver Eye as well. And that's actually dealing quite nicely with Dilly's interceptors that are bang out of fuel. They are bingo and promptly getting zapped out of the sky for their sins. That one's on 2 HP and they've left it. He survives on 2 hit points. He's sending some back. There's actually some swift winds in there as well. So Silver Eye, having made the transition to T2, trying to deal with that early air threat that's come out of Dilly's side of the map. Hordes of FAMs pushing through the gap now. Silver Eye tried to choke it off with a point defense. You can see there's Zoos mixed in amongst those forces from Dilly, so no problem there in brushing them aside. And these forces now getting dangerously close to this right-hand production center. In terms of map control, you're kind of looking at about 55% to Dilly, I think. Although there's a group of troops on the right-hand side for Silver Eye. I've taken out one mechs. That could potentially go steaming up here, jeopardizing all of this mass production in here. It's definitely something Silver Eye should consider. And Silver Eye has pushed back Dilly's forces over here on the left. He's right the way forward, but once again running out of troops of his own. So it's a real back and forth up here at the top and down here in the middle. For the moment, Dilly just kind of forming up his forces, not moving on anything unnecessarily. Doesn't need to. He can afford to sit there and be as tanky as possible. It looks like these facilities just have a rally point which is behind these units. And it's kind of a shame because it's unnecessarily exposing these forces to fire, which they don't need to be exposed to, especially with the bonus in Aurora range. Of course, the amount of Zoos in the mix will nullify that range advantage, but he's got fervors of his own. Should just be trying to get into some kind of arty war. But we're also seeing T2 air from Dilly, forcing back the Auroras on the right-hand side. This little group of troops that probably should have been engaging a little earlier, so they haven't been. That's given Dilly some time, but we've got a lot of gunships, lots of Spectres out for Silver Eye. The T2 gunships rallying on this side. They're going to take a route right round the top side of the island and come in on this production facility down here. Probably a good place to start working. It's completely undefended in terms of anti-air, static anti-air anyway. It's a hydrocarbon that could go down an awful lot of build capacity, and that's upgrading a factory as we speak to T3. That would be a very nice target of opportunity indeed for Silver Eye. Looks to be where he's going. No doubt he will see that and be able to move on, but there's a pretty significant group of FAMs and Zoos in the mix down here. Actually, I think that's mostly FAMs. Barely see a single artillery piece in that mix. That's making its way, gradually carving its way towards the nook, the center of the nook up here. And a big push down here happening from Dilly. Troops just marauding in. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go to split screen and try to keep up with all of the action that's going on. We've got gunships up here as well. They've been working on, he needs to move down with those gunships and just work on the build capacity on that factory. Maybe even take the factory out. He's got a limited amount of time before air reinforcements coming from Dilly. There they are. But Dilly is just creaming this base down here, strolling through it like it ain't no thing. Virtually no opposition at all left. It does for the moment seem as though Silver Eye has lost his base, but he's teched up to T3. I completely missed it. He's got Harbingers on the field, and they're just casually strolling around, popping all the T1s. This is going to be very interesting. He's going to lose all of the mass points in the central area, but I think he might be okay in terms of holding the territory, thanks to the Harbingers. And the groups of Swiftwinds that came in to try and rescue those gunships They looked like they were a little bit late, but then they landed and have now been taking ground fire from those troops coming off the production pad. Slight error there. And another slight error as well. He's got these Harbingers sitting back here, which could be engaging as we speak and forcing these units back. But in the meantime, that T3 factory is taking an awful lot of Zooey fire. He gets a couple of engineers on trying to repair it, but it ain't no good. And that bites the dust. It's a real horrible loss for Silver Eye there. If he'd managed to hold on to that, he would be laughing over on this right-hand side. But he's committing quite heavily down here now to gunship production. You can see the stream of them just flying across the map now. Definitely going all out air for the moment. You can see no upgrades going on. The naval factory doesn't think that there's any threat there coming from the sea, and at the same time it's not going to get him any great advantage to commit to that strat, so he's not going to. Probably grab this back to full screen. Actually, let's just try it like this in the split screen for a little bit. You can see the amount of interceptors coming in to deal with these gunships of Silver Eyes. Silver Eye comes in with his swift winds to offer some assistance, of course vastly superior to the T1 Inties. They should be able to mop them up nice and quickly. The question is how many gunships are going to go down before they do so. More interceptors coming in from Dilly all the time, focusing, just ignoring the swift winds, focusing down the gunships. He knows that that's the only thing that's stopping this horde of T1 spam that's coming down that side of the map. At the same time, there's another push happening at the top, so it is all go on both sides of the map. Meanwhile, Silver Eye is trying to rebuild. The question is he about to have issues once again as this group of units enter the perimeter of this base section. Meanwhile, another standoff happening here between these two units. They're kind of merging, actually. It's not really a standoff. They're merging into one another. They just clicked past each other on the rally point. Typically, that would probably be very bad for the Auroras, but I think he's got numbers, so it's no problem. Obviously, it's the advantage of fighting that much closer next to your own factories. Your reinforcements are going to be getting there a hell of a lot quicker. But look at the amount of gunships up once again. The Spectres in play for Silver Eye, and it's just single-handedly defending this area with air. He's back up to T2 already and working on T3 once again, but we've also got T3 out for Dilly, so he's got siege tanks on the move, so he did manage to get that upgraded to T3. He's got a lot of build capacity on it as well, so we're going to be seeing lots of siege tanks entering the fray before long, I shouldn't think. Now, significant number of gunships just pushing the spam back, and there's not really anything that Dilly can do about it. He's still mainly using interceptors. It'd be nice to see an upgrade happening to T3 or something back here, so he can get some decent tech in play, get some ASFs out and deal with these swift winds, because they're providing far too much of a safe haven for these Spectres to go about their business and just pop all the T1. But we can hear the fire coming off these siege tanks, and there's nothing over on this side of the map that's going to be able to deal with those. Currently not seeing any kind of advanced tech or even basic medium tech coming out of these two production facilities here and here. Still doing all right over on the right-hand side. Silver Eye is actually making some pretty good progress with those Spectres. However, the consistency of troops as he gets closer to this base seems to be increasing in terms of mobile anti-air. It's a very nice switch up from the manufacturing perspective. He's producing lots of mobile AA, and it's just murdering those Spectres. It's only T1, but he's got so many factories, and they've almost all switched to spewing those out. So he won't be too long in that role, I shouldn't think. Meanwhile, more siege tanks rolling in on the left from Dilly, working their way through the build capacity now. Very unfortunate, a whole train of build capacity. Someone just got fired for that decision. Not a good one at all. And finally, the last of those Spectres go down. Looked like they were bingo fuel as well. Reinforcing interceptors coming in, buckled with that anti-air fire. Made for a very poor show indeed. Let's see what's going on down here. Anything special? Just producing energy storage and power at the moment in the main base for Silver Eye. looking like there's anything too exciting going on. Spectres moving in over on the right-hand side, trying to use them to deal with this spam. I suggest he probably needs to focus on the siege tanks a little bit more, which is what he's doing. And once again, interceptors coming in for Dilly, going to try and deal with them. But the Swift Winds have no problem. They just file in behind and just pop them out of the sky one after another. You can see the kind of beating those siege tanks take. Over 10,000 HP base. That's definitely not base, actually. That's probably upgraded, seeing as he's got 74 kills to his name. But 6,700 base, so it's nearly double by the time you get up to the higher ranks. And finally, we've got T3 back on the ground over on the right-hand side for Silver Eye. He's got that factory back in play and a lot of build capacity on it, so he's just spamming out the Harbingers. They can just go tearing up this right-hand side. As long as he holds on to air control, he should be in pretty good shape as we pass the 24-minute mark. Gunships working nicely for Silver Eye on the left-hand side, working on those siege tanks. In fact, it looks like they're in full retreat over here on the left. We've even got strat bombers coming out now for Silver Eye. They look like they're heading around the right-hand side, and a cruiser as well. So Silver Eye has pushed a little bit of resources into his navy. He's going to try maybe getting it in here, doing some bombardment on the main base. We'll take a very quick look at how these guys are looking in terms of income. 130 odd mass for Dilly, 31 it looked like, to, well, we can't see because he is bottlenecking power like a boss. So that is not an accurate representation of the mass that's coming in. But you see he's trying to rectify it. He's trying to get up as much T2 power as he can. He's producing strat bombers though, and that'll nerf your power any day of the week. So we'll try and come back to that in a minute and see what he's actually on. But it looks, in terms of up and running mexes, it looks like Dilly's got the better deal anyway. It may well be around 50% in terms of map control, but there's a lot of empty mexes in Silver Eye's territory which he hasn't been able to get engineers to, and that will hurt him in the long run. So we bring this game back up to normal speed. We're actually seeing some T2 mobile flak finally in the mix for Dilly, and that will go a long way to nullifying that gunship threat that's been working so well for Silver Eye for the last 10 minutes or so. Meanwhile, on the right hand side we can see the strat bomber now making contact with Dilly's main base. He's going to come over the ridge. Is he going to get a bomb off on the first pass? It looks like he does, going straight for the T2 mechs. Takes it out. Could do a lot worse than that. Get a couple of those in the different passes. Of course, the threat in the air just got very serious indeed for Dilly. He needs to find a way to counter that. It doesn't look like he's been upgrading any more tech at all. Another strat bomber run coming in, going for another mech, successfully taking out, and the collateral damage working on a T1 PGen as well. And another strat bomber chilling down here in the ocean. He could do with sending that in. That's obviously just on a rally point. Still producing now gunships. We imagine that will probably have worked out in terms of mass. So he's on 80 something, 87 mass it looks like, Silver Eye, once his power troubles were sorted out. So that's a significant disadvantage compared to what we've seen Dilly on. And that would explain how he's been able to get this much control, this many units out. He's just that much more ahead on tech, and you'd have thought that it wouldn't have been too much difficulty for Silver Eye just to dispatch a few of these gunships, hordes of T2 gunships that he's had over the course of this game, to go on a bit of a mass sniping mission, just go from mechs to mechs, taking them out. But in the meantime, Dilly's commander's taking a lot of damage. He's down to 4,700 HP. He needs to get a wriggle on, get into the water or something, because there's another strat bomber coming in as well. He's probably thinking he was fine. He's got all those interceptors on that strat bomber. The second one presents a huge threat indeed. Oh, down into the red, 900 hit points. He is going to have to do some micro. Another bomb coming in, a lovely bit of micro, and dodges it. That could have been game right there, 1,000 hit points. Silver Eye must be committing. Sorry for that, but it's a win anyway, Silver Eye says. Not sure whether he means him or Dilly. Another bomb goes away. Oh, that's a beautiful micro right there. 12,000 hit points. I can't believe it. Hordes of inties chasing the bomber, but they're so slow they only catch up to him on the turns. incredibly inefficient at killing strap bombers. Will he be able to dodge again? Yes, he will. Some beautiful play here from Dilly. Needs to somehow get to the water or something. But of course, this cruiser over here is making life very difficult indeed for Dilly's air. Thankfully for him, however, he's got an ASF in the sky and it pops that strap bomber out. My goodness me. And in the meantime, of course, down here, look what's happening on the main continent in the middle. It's not looking too healthy at all. You might say that it's fine because Harbingers over here on the right-hand side for Silver Eye are making their way into the main base section in the Nook, but this is a lot more valuable to Silver Eye than this is to Dilly. And of course, all the time this goes on, all of these mexes are in play. So much more mass going into the bank for Dilly than for Silver Eye. And of course, he hasn't managed to finish it off yet. His production facility in his Nook is down. He's working on these units. If Dilly can get something in now to kill these, he's sending the odd siege tank that way. Meanwhile, though, a whole group of T1 units flanking in from the side. If they could get in there before this Harbinger rolls off the pad, they could do some damage, but I don't think they're going to. It doesn't look like there's any Zuis in the mix. It seems to all be Thams. And that will brook no opposition to this Harbinger, who will just casually pop them one at a time in the speed at which it takes to turn this turret. He will kill one each time, and now this little rear production facility that's been funneling T1 into the fight over the course of this game is under pretty significant threat. There is one Eruptor T1 PD over here for Silver Eye, offering him some protection, but you can't think that'll last very long at all. Luckily for Silver Eye, there aren't any any Zuis in this forward mix, but further back there are, and there are siege tanks as well, cause some pretty serious issues. Meanwhile, Dilly has managed to get his commander into the drink, and he's on an upgrade to try and get some more HP on his commander as soon as possible. I wouldn't be surprised if he was working on the auto nano repair system, trying to get that looking a little bit healthier. But look at all the build capacity that's gone pop. That Harbinger just did nothing. If he'd have been, I don't think he was concentrating. If he'd have been microing that, he potentially might have been able to save all of the build capacity. But now he's lost all that. He's got nothing on this main line. He's got a few groups of Harbingers, and basically Dilly has dominated. And it's a desperate man indeed that's trying to ground fire the commander in the drink over here with strap bombers. Dilly not falling for it. A little bit of micro, and of course all the time this goes on, he's getting more ASFs in the sky, although they are spending time flying above the cruiser, which is never good for your health as an aeroplane. There's a lot of bombs just sitting there waiting to be popped. How many kills actually is that? Got 88 kills that cruiser has got. That's outrageous. But still, look at the coverage. Yes, he's caused some damage on this right-hand side, but he's got no infrastructure left on this main island at all, barring some kind of snipe, some way to get some impact, some air impact on that commander in here. And see how he's going to do it. Maybe potentially a Solace or something, a T3 torpedo run. If he gets it in at the right angle, drops the torpedoes in here, he might be able to kill the commander. But he still looks to be producing shockers, the strap bombers for Aeon. Yeah. I think you could be missing a trick there. I don't know, it's a questionable target. It's there's not a lot of room in there, and if it can't get the bombing run off, if it can't deploy the torpedoes because of the land, then it just won't drop them. Knock that back up to +2. Game passes the 31-minute mark. I've got a strap bomber working over the top of Dilly's forward base over here. There's a lot of build capacity that could be threatened with a nice bombing run, but he's going after the siege tanks instead. Wants to preserve these Harbingers as best he can, I guess, so he can finish off this base. This could be slightly crucial to determine who's going to emerge victorious in the top section of this map, but I think overall the game is won for Dilly. Don't see any way back for it now. Like I say, barring the snipe, he's hovering over the top of Dilly's base. Silver Eye with strap bombers taking out what he can. There's a bunch of T2 P-gens going down, so wouldn't be surprised if there are power issues, but the problem Silver Eye's got is a bunch of the Zuis have crossed over, and a siege tank as well, causing him a great deal of issues. And I'd say that is game. Surely he knows it too. There's no way back from it now. Finally gets in there to kill off that siege tank. But he's just got nothing left. Nothing in the bank. His main base is decimated. He's got 3 strap bombers hovering still, having not been taken down. And finally this cruiser is under threat from Zuis. There's a couple of cruisers in here now. One's on 119 kills and the other's on 25. That's pretty outrageous. But yeah, just a couple of solaces might have ended this, potentially. I say might, it's a huge variable. It's all very easy for me sitting up here to say that, but there are some specific niche moments where the solace is just really useful, and I think that might have been one of them. And these Harbingers finally doomed. They never made any advance towards that upper base. Almost feels like Silver Eye just ran out of steam. Really know what he was doing at the end there, because he just seemed to run out of options. And unable to contend with the siege tanks and Zui fire. Those Harbingers finally capitulate. Really signifies the end of the last serious threat on this map. There are 3 Harbingers in here in the middle, and 3 strap bombers and 2 cruisers, and that really, 3 cruisers, that really is the arsenal in terms of Silver Eye's forces. He's moving in now. He needs to take out these siege tanks with an overcharge. They'll take an awful lot of fire. You can see the amount of damage that comes off those siege tanks. Doesn't look like Silver Eye has managed to reconstruct to power storage. Or he hasn't got power to do it. He has got power storage. He hasn't got the power to do it. Bottlenecking it hard. Trying to get a T2 P-gen in place, but I would say that was all over. And Silver Eye says, I shouldn't let you kill my base. I totally agree, my friend. Calls out the GG. And there it goes. Do we get explosion? No explosion? Oh, no payoff. Sorry, guys. Epic apologies for that one. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Slightly bizarre game, but that is the nature of this map, and I wanted to cast one on this map because it is so unique in its own right. I know there's a lot of anti-20k hysteria, well, not hysteria, sentiment, shall we say, in the upper echelons of the community regarding the ladder, mainly. Not in terms of just blanket 20k maps aren't any good, but in terms of the ladder, it's not particularly favoured, because people like to know they are going to play for X amount of time when they start a ladder game, so they much more prefer the 5km or 10km maps. But anyway, I think that one's worth a shufti if you haven't played it. There will be more to come very soon, guys, as always. But in the meantime, stay well and stay safe. This is Gyle signing out.